This is our community. It's our opportunity to come together, to celebrate careers in the arts, to celebrate good people, to celebrate your artistry, and to celebrate our community. So we are so glad that we are all here today. We're so fortunate to have our favorite buddies here at Gensler, which is a powerhouse of a firm rooted with really solid, great people who care about community. They kicked off our first ever Community and Career Day in the fall semester, and they are here yet again to kick off 2021, bring the fire, bring the inspiration, bring the passion, and also bring the connection. A lot of things in life are about who you surround yourself by, and it's also about showing up and putting in the work. The folks who are here with us today have been putting in that work, have been grounded in community and good relationships and mentorship, are alumni of MassArt or connected to MassArt, and they're here to bring you their story, their professional practice, how they grew as artists and makers and just people in the world, and the beauty of their really great relationships. And so we're really humbled to have them. And this is also a deep partnership. They're not just here to kind of jump in and jump out. They're riding with us. So I know, Maddie, you asked about IG handles and things like that. Ask questions. We're going to have Alice in the chat, being a chat monitor. So as the presentations happen, if you've got questions, put them in the chat. We'll have time for Q&A afterward. So if you've got questions, these are friendly, great people who will answer your questions. And so they're going to be covering a lot of ground. So also if there's anything that, they miss or you forget, or you're like, oh, I would love to have them back. Guess what? They can come back. They can come back and check out the classes. They can come back at the end of the semester to give you feedback on your work. We're really trying to build a partnership with really great people who can shine a light on what it means to be a professional artist and designer in the world. With that said, I want to reintroduce Denise Korn, who will introduce her team, Alex and Michelle, who will share their story with you. As always, if you guys please pay attention. Also, families, you're encouraged to be a part of the conversation. Put your thoughts in the chat, be a part of the Q&A. And with that said, I want to introduce Denise Korn.
Thanks, Chandra. Can everyone hear me? Am I coming through? I'm honored, and we're so happy to be here today. I'm pretty sure a lot of you joined us. I think it was Halloween day or something. It was the end of October, which feels like a couple of weeks ago, but now it's almost February. Don't blink. And I was hosting here with Elisa Young, another MassArt grad who is a professional interior designer. She runs a really interesting social action group called the Mid Collective, which is around interior designers and architects of color here in Boston. And she's super cool. And all of us today, as well as Elise and our whole team from Gensler, are accessible to all of you. And we will, Bethany and Greg and Chandra, they know how to reach us. They have our bat phones. And all our digits. But if there's anything that you have a question for me, I'm going to hand it off to the co-hosts of your afternoon in a minute. But I'm going to start by just refreshing you about Gensler and what we do. Like I said, we're here for you, and we want to get to know all of you, although it's more challenging now than we could be in the room with you. So open for reaching out and for connecting anytime. So super stoked about today. So as I introduce myself back in the fall, my name is Denise Korn, and I am a designer that focuses on the side of the universe that does branding. And last time we were focused on interior design, primarily learning about Elisa's story and her world. But today I have two MassArt alums, dear friends and colleagues of mine from both life and work at this point. And we're going to tell you our story. I work at a company called Gensler. And I encourage real talk all the time, regardless of who's in the room and what we're talking about. I love to put people out of their comfort zone, because if you're not having real talk, you're not having real sort of collaborative and open conversations that lead to really big creative breakthroughs. We really focus on uncovering the purpose and the meaning in our work, in order to use design to better this universe that we live in. And God knows we all need to keep chipping away at that. I've been at Gensler now for almost 3 years, and Michelle was part of our team, and she'll tell you a little bit about that journey. But Gensler is a global company that has offices in 46 countries around the globe. And we work out of the Boston office here. And we formed the brand group in the Boston office. And today we're going to talk all about brand design. We really use our craft and the work that we do to take all of these categories of placemaking and entertainment and travel and lifestyle. We try to use all of our client relationships and all of our power through the work that we do in order to impact change and impact community and culture. So you should start to think about whether you're an artist or a designer or any kind of creator, the power that you have with your voice is super powerful as you move your way into using it with others and collaborating with others. And it's a responsibility and a power. And we're so excited to sort of hear your voice and your reaction to the stories that Alex and Michelle are going to share with you today. Our brand group does a lot of work in hospitality. So we do a lot of work with hotels and restaurants and entertainment venues. We also work in the cultural space and do a lot of work with, dance and theater and all kinds of neighborhood planning and community and civic planning, and also some product design and package design. So within MassArt, there's all these different departments, and actually there are people that are trained in industrial design and architecture, interior design, brand, communications, fashion. They all work at Gensler, and we all work together and sort of mix and match depending on what the assignment is. You can see here on this one page, we've got illustration, we've got photography, we've got product design. So there's a lot of different ways that you can stretch your role as a creative and visionary person in this role of brand. And we're going to focus on that today. It's a big topic, but I like to say design has a big D, and it kind of spreads its wings in lots of different directions. These are all projects that we've done and created, and you might recognize some of them. Boston Ballet and Huntington Theater Company are kind of in your neighborhood of MassArt. And of course, the Fenway is kind of stands for itself, right? We collaborate across different practices and different areas of expertise. And I like to say we create these like really big, messy hairballs of ideas and thinking. And our job as brand designers and brand strategists is to sort of tease out all that thinking and all those ideas and make sense of it and bring it out into the world in some kind of beautiful way. So I am also a mom. I've raised 2 kids in the South End. I grew up in Boston. I still live in Boston. I had a pretty big sprint out of this universe and back in again. I'm pretty committed to the community here in Boston. Have done a ton of work with urban creative people. And focusing on the next generation, which is actually you, on the creative spirit and sort of tapping you guys into the creative economy. I now sit as on the board of MassArt. I've been working with MassArt now for almost 20 years. It's like dating me. And I consider myself first and foremost, a mom, a daughter, a sister. But also I love to mentor and I love to teach. So I really hope to hear from you and get to know all of you. I'm going to let Alex and Michelle each introduce themselves to you, and then I'm going to pass the baton because that's really the meat of what we're going to do today. So, Mr. Alex, do you want to, each of you also you can explain in your own words how the heck you know me?
Hey, everyone. I'm Alex. I'm an art director and designer. I first met Denise when I was 17 and in high school, and she ran a program called Youth Design back in the day. And I, in high school, was curious about design and met Denise, and we kind of created our friendship. Our friendship started there, and then I worked. Youth Design gave kids the opportunity to get design jobs while they're in high school. It's the summer off. You get to work at a design agency, or I think it branched off to interior design and fashion design. But that's where I met Denise. I'm a MassArt alum. I'm an adjunct professor at MassArt. I'm teaching in the continuing ed program. I'm a son and a brother. I'm a mentor, and I'm also an activist.
Great.
Hi,
Madame
everybody.
Michelle.
Hi, I'm Michelle Wang. I met Denise while I was at college at MassArt. I graduated in 2019. I saw her present on what then was corn design, grew really interested in the brand processes and reached out to her and Javier and met them through an informational interview and later went on to intern and then work under her and her amazing team at Gensler. Additionally, now I'm a design leader at a marketing agency in Seattle. I am both, a mentor and a mentee. I like to think I'm a creative thinker. I have 2 brothers and, my lovely parents. And, I would like to think of myself as an activist as well. So I think without further ado, I think we're ready to jump in, Denise.
Yeah.
So, just quickly to jump in and talk a little bit more about my background. I really have always been intrigued in design processes and the implementation of design and innovation. So prior to my time at Clever Wolf, I worked as a design strategist and brand strategist at Gensler, working with large brands to make them come to life. And then previous to that, I worked at the streetwear company Bodega as a designer, helping with their web and apparel design, and also at the Massachusetts State House to help a House representative pass a bill on paid family medical leave. Outside of work, I like to think of myself as someone who's like a self-starter. I do a lot of, sketching and reading and watching Netflix outside of what I do professionally. But I love culture and all things having to do with it.
I'm a designer, painter, cyclist, and I like to say an awesome playlist creator. I love music. I love working with my hands, and I've always known that since I was little. I just loved using my hands to create. Before I became an adjunct professor, I was an art director at a startup in the Back Bay. Before that, I worked at an ad agency called Breakaway Marketing, where I got to work hands-on on creating campaigns. And my first job out of school was actually with Denise Korn at Korn Design, where I worked in the luxury hospitality space, working on hotels, restaurants, real estate properties. In the image in the bottom right corner, when I say I met Denise when I was 17, that is literally me when I was 17 in Denise's office for this photo shoot for Youth Design. I love that photo.
I do too. And it's so crazy.
You can definitely tell it's the mid 2000s because of how baggy all the clothes were.
Yeah. Yeah. That young guy, you guys, in the burgundy vest with the turquoise t-shirt, he's now like one of like the senior leads at IBM's Watson Labs. So you just never know.
Wow.
These are all BPS high school kids. So
yeah. So with our presentation today, we wanted to make it clear that designers are artists. We all started off as artists and makers and creators and creatives. Following slide.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's fine. So I love showing this. This is kind of like my history, my background. I grew up in Boston and I went to the Boston Arts Academy for high school because I always knew I loved doing art. So these are a couple of my contact sheets of my photography class, just capturing Boston through my camera. And I loved Boston Arts Academy. This is actually work that I completed while at the Arts Academy when I was around your age, 16, 17, 18. Just really diving into my passion for being an artist. So this is my start. And on the following page, you can kind of see that, you can still be a maker when you're a designer. Sure, 9 to 5, I'm actually working on graphic design, but in my personal time, I like doing personal projects. And what you're looking at here is kind of a personal project that I embarked on called the 100-Day Project, where for every day you create a new piece of art. I loved it. I dove head into it, but this is something that I did recently. As a
Alex,
designer, I'm still creating.
Are they framed on the wall behind you?
Yes, actually. Yeah. So behind me, I have them framed because I love creating. I love making stuff with my hands still, even though I'm spending a lot of my time on the computer. The real release for me comes working with my hands. And on the following page, you can actually see a select few of those shots that I took.
If you follow him on Instagram, you can see all of them.
Right on the bottom right there, Al Barbo. Yep.
I'm going to jump in. I have a little bit of a different background. I went to public high school in the suburbs of Boston, and I didn't truly have a calling. I always knew I loved art, but I also was really interested in, social studies. I was a big history nerd. I did dance and cheerleading, and I did a study abroad in Spain, and was really involved in the school activities. Ultimately, I did end up, deciding that I was going to pursue art, but to be honest, it was kind of a last-minute decision. MassArt was the only art school I ended up applying to, and it really spoke to me when I visited the campus the few times I did before attending. So I know I'm a little bit closer in age to you guys than Alex, so I wanted to show a little bit of the work I was doing in high school, the work that, got me into art school, and talk a little bit about it. Obviously, I was an artist first. I loved painting, got really into at the time, the digital painting with the Wacom tablets, and then started to delve a little bit more into graphic design. And I think you can really see a little bit of my growth here in terms of starting to get an understanding for typography, the style, and the form and figure layout kind of relationship. But I was really in this experimental phase of my practice and my life. And I really feel like it's important to understand that you don't need to have it all figured out, because I clearly didn't. I was doing a lot of different things. I was, trying to integrate art in ways with, the activities I was doing, including, cheer and travel and, just generally, enjoying the other aspects of being a high schooler. So I'm just going to quickly take you guys a little bit through what being at MassArt was like, what going to art school looks like, and really talk a little bit about my studies. So in my freshman year, I'm sure you guys are all pretty familiar with the foundation year, which is really a way to kind of touch all aspects of art and design, and get an early introduction to really what it's like to go to art school. This was a really transformative experience for me, being around so many creative-minded people, and also being introduced to creative careers. So whether it's art or design or somewhere in that in-between zone where you're maybe using creative thinking in a more traditional career context. I was really enthralled with that aspect of it and really being around people. In my sophomore year, I began my graphic design program. This was also the year that Trump was inaugurated as president. So I became really involved in social activism, going to the Women's March, and later interning in the State House to try to make some actionable change during my time. And, I wanted to emphasize I was still doing art, despite the fact that, you can see I was doing a little bit more of this traditional graphic design studies. In my junior year, I was deep diving a little bit more into the graphic design practice and really starting to learn more about the relationship of typography and an image, which is at its core what graphic design is. It was also this year that I was really working at Bodega, which is, I'm sure some of you are familiar with the streetwear company down near the Pru. And then finally in my senior year, I was really starting to grow my professional practice. I had multiple projects where I worked with professional companies at school, like Fidelity, Brigham Hospital, and then working at Gensler as an intern. You can actually see, here's Denise at my graduation as the board members are attending. But this was a year that I really honed in on my skills, not only to the craft of design, but also the social aspects of it and the presentation and ability to communicate my ideas in a more cohesive and, end-to-end way. So I just wanted to show you guys a little bit of the work that is coming out of these departments and what folding in maybe different layers of design and art may look like. In the junior year, graphic design students are asked to create a conceptual magazine. They do multiple different layouts. You basically get to do a full concept from end to end. I obviously, being Asian American, wanted to think about what the modern, I'm a millennial, so what the modern millennial may be interested in culturally, and maybe that feeling of isolation that a lot of us feel, especially on the East Coast. This project was an interesting project. It was for a class called Design is Business. We collaborated with a think tank at Fidelity, which is an investment bank, to basically pitch a product idea from end to end and use design as our kind of driver for how we are going to sell the services. We ultimately came up with this fiscal planner to help with that kind of gap in financial understanding and responsibility. And we went through about, I want to say, 3 phases of surveying, multiple prototyping, and different ways to market this product to sell to the company.
Michelle, real quick, define survey and prototyping.
Surveying, basically, it's a questionnaire. You send it out to, it can be to, a large set of participants and users, and they basically answer a bunch of random questions. You take that data and it can really help to tone in on the product. And then the prototyping is basically where you make test products essentially, and you give them to users to see how they interact with it. This is really a philosophy that was, created by some of the big design firms like Gensler to really make sure that the designs were made to be usable and actually work and not just look pretty.
Prototyping is kind of like a physical sketch of an idea. Yeah.
And I think at this point we wanted to take a quick Q&A break to see if anybody had any questions about high school, about getting into art school, what the art school experience is like. We can take, I think we have time for 15 minutes if we want to quickly chat.
Just a quick question. So during not financial foundation year, year, do you like take a little bit of each class? Like, you know, you did a little bit of animation, a little bit of illustration, stuff like that?
Yeah, exactly. So the first semester, you don't have as much control over the classes that you do take, but the second semester, you can take specific drawing courses that are a little bit more targeted to what you're interested in, and elective courses that are closer to what you may want to get into. I see in the chat that people are asking about tips on tech for people who want to maybe get into something a little bit more targeted to graphic design or illustration in design. I was fortunate enough to have a family member who helped me purchase my MacBook, but there is at the art schools, they have a tech resource library essentially that you can borrow different kinds of iPads and laptops, cameras, recording devices. They have the whole range. And then all over campus, they had Macs, PCs fully loaded with the software that you would need to kind of use the equipment. And then additionally, for students who maybe needed a little bit of help, there were different technology scholarships that you could apply to get into.
Anybody else have any questions for any of us?
I did see earlier in the chat that someone had a question about how the different types of specializations are incorporated in the projects you guys do. And Michelle, I know you said that animation and illustration are definitely incorporated, but I wonder if you could just go into detail about that so the students could hear a little bit more about how something that they're interested might directly apply to a project that you guys would be involved in.
Absolutely. And we're going to deep dive a little bit further into kind of how different practices of art and design got folded into the work that we were doing in the high-end hospitality realm specifically. Alex is going to chat a little bit more about that, but a lot of the designers who we work with at Gensler and across the different big firms are multidisciplinary by nature. Many of us do a range of we're not just a design strategist. We're not just an illustrator. Many of us do a lot, basically, in our day-to-day. Illustration came in, especially with the architects. There are, architects who watercolored or, hand drew their designs. There are presentations where we integrated digital illustrations to better visually depict what we were trying to communicate strategically. There were definitely instances where designers either illustrate themselves or we hire an outside illustrator to create different maps or, build onto the brand itself. Denise, do you have anything further?
Yeah. Sometimes a project can have upwards of like 100 different types of people that touch and impact the physical or the communication aspects of a project, depending on what it is. And so we do everything from art direct photography, work with fashion designers to create uniforms. We develop product. A lot of the design tracks that professions that you can choose as a brand designer gives you the flexibility to really try on a lot of hats and also work and collaborate with lots of different types of people and thinkers. And when Michelle started with us, she was focused on graphic design and was interning as a, I don't know what it's called, visual communications major. What is the name of the major? Something like that. Design. Communication design. And she got to know our strategy team and got really excited and jazzed up around the brand strategy work that we do. So You just never know with any project or any job you have where it's going to take you. And those people might not impact your world immediately, but they'll come back around. Jean Nutt, who is one of our managing directors of Gensler, sat on the board for youth design. And that's how we met. We met because she wanted to work with urban kids. And fast forward, now we work together. So you just never know. Alex, any other ideas you want to throw in the pen? I know you're going to show a bunch of projects next, you guys. So we might want to like circle back to this question again once you've seen some of it in action.
Mm-hmm.
There's one more question in the chat asking a little bit about the design process itself and what is a little bit difficult. Alex, do you want to take it?
It's super easy.
Yeah, it's just a walk in the park.
The most difficult part of the design process, I think it varies depending on the project. I think, and
the client, right?
And the client and the restrictions, but like, I can't really say that one thing is difficult in every single project. I don't want to say it's always the same in every single project. I think some projects come easier than others. We sit down and we concept, we come up with these ideas, and maybe the most difficult part is you come up with this amazing concept and the client loves something else. That's, I think for me, like a heartbreaking moment is when you love an idea and someone else doesn't kind of see the vision. But like, I think difficult parts vary from project to project, especially the stuff that I work on where maybe it's branding, maybe it's a web page that I'm working on, and then that has a specific difficult set of circumstances. But
it's also, Alex, a good opportunity to share with everyone that when you're creating work for a client, it's I don't even want to say it's a job because we love what we do, but it is a paid engagement. And there is a client that you're serving, but a good client is open to thinking about things in a different way than they might have thought about in the beginning. And a big part of you as a communicator and as an artist in this role as a brand designer is to learn how to express all the thinking and all the strategic ideas, and how the idea that's become visual is grounded in your understanding of their world and what they're trying to do. And so, I think selling and expressing and being able to communicate your visual communication ideas is a really important part of this job. Now, that being said, there will be many moments where what you think is the best idea won't be voted, onto the island or whatever you say. And I think another early hint that I would give you all to sort of take home with you tonight is nothing's precious. One good idea could possibly lead to a much better idea around the corner. So don't hold on to things too tightly, because you just never know like what it's going to bounce forward and push you to kind of think about something yourself differently. So.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would like to jump on and say design is a deeply humbling practice. It's never done, and it's a highly iterative and collaborative practice, and really a trade ultimately. And I think probably what we can all say as creators is the most difficult is creative block, and really having to navigate around those times where you feel like you've hit a wall and nothing else is going to happen. And, being able to, especially now in this virtual world, take a break, step away from the computer, go for a walk, get in front of the pen and paper and just try to jam it out.
Yeah. Well, maybe as we go through sharing some of the projects, you guys could share the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Absolutely. I'm going to quickly take you through my brief career experience, and then Alex is going to take it away. This is something I developed as I've thought a little bit more about my process towards design, but I really believe that supporting design with research makes the end result best. So you can see this is really a little bit around a kind of riffed on version of the scientific method that a lot of design researchers, strategists, different design titles really take, where you take a problem, you research it, you take different qualitative and quantitative data analysis, and that just basically means both data driven and kind of like feeling and motive driven. You synthesize that down to create a hypothesis. You create designs to essentially try to solve for the problem. You iterate on that process until something happens that you want. You get the end result you want, and then there's a post-analysis and report out. So these are some of the social media assets I made while I was working at Bodega as one of their junior designers and interns. Bodega is a really interesting organization, as everything is really done by artists there. There's no one there who's not a creator in some sense of means. We can page forward and see a little bit more of this. Really touches the range of what I did at my other jobs. I helped build the brand strategy for the Boston Center for the Arts rebrand. I helped Denise and team with the Atari Hotels project, which we recently just publicly announced that we're partnering on. At Bodega, I did some typography exploration, which ultimately led to designs that are actually being used to this day. In hindsight, there's definitely things I want to fix on it, but you guys can actually buy some of the type that I custom made on shirts now. I also helped at Bodega the first ever Boston Art Book Fair, which is a multi-day competition. Sorry about that. It's a multi-day kind of event where artists, bookmakers, art bookmakers, different arts organizations all come together and really get to kind of like hang out. It's really fun. If you guys are around and able to go, it's a free event and you can kind of just meet a lot of cool people. When I worked at MassArt, I was on the social media marketing team and got to attend a lot of the events like the fashion show and the MassArt auction, and took photos for them. You can see in the upper right-hand corner some of the COVID signage I was working on most recently at my time at Gensler, and then some of the graphic design work I did as an intern. And you can see we did mood boarding, hand sketches, digital sketches, and lots of iterations and type runs and image editing and many means of manipulation to just really test out and try. And that was for a restaurant at a hotel that recently opened called the 907 Main in Cambridge. And now I moved across the world. I'm currently in a suburb of Honolulu in Hawaii. My parents moved out here after I graduated college. And at the beginning of COVID, I came out here thinking it was going to be a few weeks, and now it's been almost a year that I've been here due to a little HR complications. I've had to take a career change, and I now work for a marketing company where I'm leading their new branch in Seattle. Virtually, of course, because I'm not flying across the Pacific. But really, this is to say that your journey is not a straight path. I didn't know what I was doing in high school. I went to college thinking I was going to be a book designer and came out doing, design strategy, brand strategy. And I'm now doing design leadership at a mid-sized company. And the way the world changes, and luckily based on being in a creative industry, there's a lot of exploration and flexibility. And I feel really fortunate to see a little bit more of the world and the kind of way that we work.
Yeah, I think that's the perfect segue from Michelle, just talking about not really knowing, like just going with it, like not really knowing where it's heading, but just kind of going with the flow. And I think that perfectly sums up kind of like my design journey, in the sense that in high school, I had no clue that graphic design was a viable career path. Like I never knew that's a job that someone like me, a kid from Dorchester, could ever get in going through college. So my design journey starts with my inspiration. Before I got to college, the biggest thing I loved was street art. I loved graffiti. Shepard Fairey was really big in the mid 2000s, creating these posters, and I just loved everything about them. Not really connecting the dots that's graphic design. I just remember him as like, oh, it's the graffiti artist, Shepard Fairey. So graffiti and street art really played a big integral role in terms of kind of like my inspiration when I was younger. Then when I got to college, I then realized that there were these amazing graphic designers creating like amazing experiences, amazing posters, amazing logos. And that's kind of where my interest kind of shifted into. And then in the bottom right corner, I added Virgil Abloh because that's someone that relates to kind of the newer generation, but he's a designer. He's a fashion designer. He's an industrial designer. He is everything underneath the sun. And, these are touch points. I think I'm going to stop here and say the best thing about my job is that I can think of something, I can create it, and then someone out there can experience, can actually hold, can actually see something that I had in my mind. And I think Virgil Abloh is the perfect example of that, of someone who has all these creative ideas, whether you love them or you don't, but he has the opportunity, he has the joy, he has the greatest job on earth of just making stuff and then giving it to people to actually like enjoy and hold and see. And it's the best part of our jobs. But this is kind of my inspiration. And then I want to dive into some of the work that I created while I was at Core Design. As I said before, never thought a kid from Dorchester would be a graphic designer. Never thought I'd be working on luxury hospitality. And when I say that we have the best job, like we have the best job. Like we were working on this hotel in San Diego called the Hotel Republic. And in my mind, I said, I would love for this hotel to feel beachy, feel like you're in the sun of California, feel like the old school scripts that you would see on cars. And this is an example of one of the ideas that we pitched. And this is like a hand-done typography because I really wanted to hand do it because I wanted it to feel personal. And then as one of the questions in the chat below said, like I then created these background watercolor textures because I'm like, I wanted to feel beachy and organic. And I did that by hand. It was an idea in my mind and I wanted to see what it looked like and I put it together. And this is what the overall feeling of the hotel is. And then on the next page, it actually shows like what we show a client. We show up to the meeting and we're like, this is the identity. And these are the images that kind of we use as like mood, like it's like a mood board. It's an inspirational board. The person that's going to stay at this hotel kind of looks like these people, it's the surfboard, the sunset, the person working on their laptop outside, the waves. So our job is to kind of paint the picture of like, what's the essence of this brand identity? And on the next page, we have fun and we get to explore. So then we created business cards. So this is my mock-up of like what a business card would look like if you go to the hotel. Again, using this background texture that I created, really bringing my ideas to life, saying like, this could be a cool do not disturb. One side is blue and calm, the other is red and sunny, do not disturb, come in. So really playing with the idea of those dualities. And again, as I said before, as a designer, anything you come up with, you can execute it. And then like, if it's within this concept, it like works really well. And this is how we would show like, hey, what would a postcard, a pen, and like a phone look like with the website on it? Another project I had the ability to work on is the Great Hall Bar. And this was a bar inside of one of our other projects, our larger project, the Hotel Saranac, which is in Saranac Lake. And they have this small little bar in in one of the lobbies. And we thought it'd be really fun to kind of have it tied back to the Great Gatsby. And I spent a lot of time just thinking of like different concepts, coming up with different ideas. And I thought the Great Gatsby theme was a lot of fun. And then I kind of did my research and looked into the overall look and feel of the Great Gatsby and kind of created this logo mark to kind of reflect that. Really having fun with it, creating a monogram. That's what the hotel bar looks like. And the great part is we worked with the interior designers. You know, we worked hand in hand, getting inspiration from interior designers, architects. As a designer, you're working on the brand look and feel, but you're not siloed. You know, you have the ability to kind of touch with all these different people within the industry working on the project as well. So we work with interior designers, architects, who else? Just a slew of people. Like design is not, you're not in a silo, you're working with a bunch of people, you're collaborating depending on the project. But this is what the hotel looks like if they had coasters.
Oops,
and coasters. The next project is one that's dear to Denise and I's heart, Vesta Denver. This project, Denise and her company worked on it 25 years ago. It's actually longer now, but it was the 25th anniversary of this project that Denise...
This was one of our first projects when I started my company. And my baby cousin owns it.
Yeah.
He was like 4 when he opened this restaurant.
So working on this team, working with all the history behind this, and it was the 25th anniversary, we really wanted to kind of rebrand the Vesta logo. It worked for 25 years, and we were on a team where we got to kind of rebrand it, kind of give it a new look and feel for another 25 years. And this is another project where I say that like I had this crazy idea and I just kind of jumped into it and said like I'm going to paint all these custom grayscaled painting textures that we could use in the brand. And you can see it here featured on the menu. We loved this copper piece. And this is a project that I worked with a senior designer. I worked with Denise, you know, because it was so important to the company. There's so many people, you know, we were all working as a team to kind of make sure that we put our, I don't want to say best foot forward, but like we were hitting all the marks because this project meant so much to us. And those are the menus.
Alex, talk a little bit about the technical stuff here, you know, the printing and like the things we had to solve for.
Yeah. So the biggest issue was with these hand-done textures and scaling it up, making sure it's not pixelated. But we actually worked with a printer who we chose the paper stock. And that's another fun thing that I used to love working at Corn is that we used to pick papers, you know, feel the texture of the paper. It's a big process where you're not just sending something to print and they're printing it and sending it back to you. Like we had paper samples come into the office and we weighed it, felt if it was like the right weight. And with working with the printer, we have this copper finish on the Vesta logo. As you can see, it kind of changes depending on the lighting. And we did a lot of tests with that as well. And here you can see on the business card, it's another one of the hand-done textures that I had come up with. And similar process to the previous menus, you know, we worked with a vendor to kind of source the paper, make sure it's right for the business card, work with a printer to make sure the printing, the color, make sure the texture is coming out correctly when it prints, working on the copper foil on top. Yeah. And then on the following page, you see that we actually got to redo the signage out front. And this is one thing, again, you think like, oh, a designer is not going to work on that. No, we have our hands in it as well. I got to do a ton of samples of with the signage. So what the sign's going to look like on the outside. I sketched it by hand. And that's one thing that I want to mention as well. All these projects before this, like it's me sketching in my sketchbook, coming up with these ideas, writing stuff down before I kind of jump into the computer and digitize it. And, you see it with the textures that we came up with, that's all done by hand. I love drawing, sketching first, and then jumping into the computer and putting it together. And this last project's a great project from when I worked at my ad agency. I was the art director designer on this project, working with my creative director. And we were tasked by Popcorners, the chip company, to kind of help them relaunch their Popcorner chips. They had like 3 different versions now, and they wanted to come back to market. And this was a fun exercise in terms of working with the creative director to kind of come up with these scenes for these different scenarios where it's do one better, do beach time better, do lunchtime better, do barbecue better. And it's a very fun process because I got to work with the creative director. We worked with photographers, stylists. It's a whole team of people that came together to put this together. And then we finished it off with creating microsites. So I got to create a microsite for the campaign that people can visit while the campaign was running. And the main point of the campaign, of the microsite, is to kind of get people to buy chips. So it ended with a link to purchase the chips. So it's a very fun project. It was super involved. I was working with account managers, photographers, my creative director, and we just had fun with this project. And I don't know if you guys saw in the previous one, but I was a model in it. A model in one of the shoots, so it was very exciting.
Cool. So that's a wrap. On the screen are the LinkedIn connections for Michelle and Alex. I guess we could put that and your emails into the chat as well. And we're going to open up the floor for some questions. I'm going to leave this on the screen for a minute to let me know, Bethany, if you think we should just move on. We hit right on 5 o'clock. I'm very impressed.
I think if we condense a little bit, we can have questions for 5 to 10. If there are still questions that students have.
Okay. I think it was a good idea to do questions midstream. That was cool. That was good.
Mm-hmm.
How fun is it designing?
Super fun and super frustrating. It's, we love it. We like eat, sleep, breathe it. I mean, I can only speak for myself, but once you start to do it, you can't stop seeing it everywhere you go. And I think more than design, it's our lives. Do you feel fulfilled as artists when we do work for clients? Yes, I would say yes and no. I mean, obviously there's always, you want something more, right? Like Alex, I'm sure you can speak to this as well, but like outside of the work, you still want to keep doing it. It doesn't stop. It doesn't like go to bed. It's something that,
yeah. I mean, I would say we're always happy when there's an opportunity that comes out of the strategic thinking that presents an opportunity for one of us to sort of do something and make it ourselves and have it be part of the end product. Like, on Alex's Republic Hotel, like that was all done by hand. And it feels really good to be able to have your hand in something. I ended up drawing the bubble letters on Summer Shack because our crazy client there, he gave me something that his mom had given him when he was a kid about like opening her corner store. And he's like, I wanted to kind of feel like this. And I was like, I can do bubble letters. That's easy. And then we sketch 9 million versions of Summer Shack and bubble letters, right? So the next time you guys see Summer Shack, that restaurant that's in Boston, whenever we open up and go out again, I drew that in my pajamas for about 3 weeks. So
I think feeling fulfilled, I'm just happy to be able to be doing what I do. And when I have those moments where I'm just like, oh, I can't stand another like online dashboard that I have to create. I have those moments where I'm like, I'm still an artist. I'm going to do exactly what I have been doing. I'm just going to spend my time creating on my own free time, kind of the work that fully fulfills me. But I'm just happy to be able just to do the work that I am doing, where it's like I'm still creating. It might be a little tug and pull, but like at least I have the ability to have my outlet and I can paint and work on a puzzle or something.
I see in the chat we've been asked if we felt prepared to work in the field and get a job. I'll just quickly jump in because I think I had the most. I graduated most recently. I think yes, definitely. I felt prepared. MassArt does a lot, and the professors, are personally really invested in the welfare and the career trajectory of their students, who are also their friends and peers in practice, as most of the professors are working designers. And they really teach you to be go-getters. I got my job at Bodega through one of my professors, had a connection there. I cold called Denise, but obviously she's very tied to MassArt, and the Boston community is really invested in the MassArt student base and the professional growth of the career of creatives. There's even now in the mayor's office a set of designers who are working on urban planning and whatnot. But I would say yes, but it's also you have to do the work. You have to kind of like put it in, and to a certain extent, it's self-driven because you're a grown-up and you have to be invested in your own professional growth too.
Yeah, I think speaking for me, after graduating from MassArt, even before graduating, I had internships, which actually gave me real world experience working at an agency. I had the ability to kind of see what it takes to work at an agency with like a senior designer, a junior designer. Like I just kind of shadowed someone and kind of realized like, oh, like this is somewhere I could be. Like I'm prepared to kind of do this work. And honestly, like the most of the learning came when I actually got my job and I was working underneath someone all the time. I remember there's one senior designer that was at Korn that like I still love to this day because she like took the time to teach me, while I was working there. And she kind of pulled me aside and we'd kind of work together because she knew that like I was fresh out of school and she was making sure that my skills were like getting better and progressing the more projects that I touched. So I think MassArt prepared me to kind of get into the market. And then when I actually got my job, there were people within the job place that actually helped me progress even further.
I see that jumping on that, someone else asked what advice we'd have for high schoolers and new students trying to prepare themselves for a career after they graduate. I'll just quickly jump in and say, never stop learning. Like creative people are lifelong learners. There's never, like I said, there's never an end to the practice itself. And then, additionally, something I would really recommend is, similar to what Denise said, nothing's precious. It's a deeply humbling practice, and just keep doing it and try to continue to find new ways to love and to learn and to grow. Oh, and also speaking as like a woman and someone who is like a person of color, gas yourself up and trust in your ability to do things and go for it, because no one else is going to do it for you. And what's the worst they can do? they can ignore you and say no, like, and you move on, and that's that. It's not the end of the world. And, you know, apply for the internship that you think you might not get. You know, email people. I mean, that's how I got my jobs, was like literally just emailing people, and really think highly of yourself, because what you do is really special.
And I might add that all those people that you're reaching out to that you like value or you know, have a crush on or love their work or whatever, they're just people. You know, they're probably older than you and coming at it from a different place, but in the end, they're people. And if they're good people, they will love to give you a few minutes of their time and listen to you. So respect it, but you know, just go for it, like Michelle said.
I'd say that's my exact career post-graduating. You know, I didn't get a job that I was like, I wanted at Converse. Like I really wanted this job at Converse. I was heartbroken when I didn't get it. You know, I was fresh out of school and I was like, but I'm good. What do you mean I didn't get the job? But then got into contact with Denise and we started talking, and that's how I started working at like youth design. And then I started freelancing somewhere else. And then I then got to work with Denise. So it's like using your network as well, the people that you meet along your journey, and knowing when to reach out, like not feeling like you're bothering them, because if they're your mentor, they're there to mentor you, you know? And I always felt that with Denise. I'm like, all right, didn't get that job. Let me see, like, let's reach out with Denise and kind of reconnect and kind of reestablish this relationship. So,
and, you know, Bethany and Greg and the AB team are going to coordinate for us to come back and be accessible to you guys with more questions, or show us your work, or talk about applications for college, all those things, which can make this conversation more specific and personal to you and the challenges and the ideas you have. We're here for you.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, I think that we are going to need to transition. So thank you again to Denise, Alice, and Michelle. It's been a pleasure. And we will continue to be in touch.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
We appreciate you. Thank you.
Bye.